A group of highly trained bank robbers has already pulled off several flawless heists without leaving a single clue behind. But this time, they're planning something no one has ever attempted before, breaking into one of the most secure financial institutions in the United States. The only person standing in their way is Big Nick, an aggressive detective who bends every rule to catch criminals. Unlike the robbers he hunts, Nick isn't afraid to intimidate witnesses, ignore protocol, or throw the first punch if it gets him closer to his target. But by the end, it becomes clear that the real mastermind isn't who anyone expected. At 3:30 in the morning outside a donut shop in Los Angeles, two security guards step out of an armored truck for a quick coffee run, and by the time they push back through the door, two cars have silently blocked the vehicle from behind, and a masked crew led by a man named Ray, carrying military-grade rifles and wearing full body armor and gas masks, is already in position. The moment the guards step back outside, the crew opens fire. One guard reaches for his holster and is shot dead before he clears the draw. The driver inside the truck takes a second shot and goes down after radioing the LAPD. The remaining guard is dragged out by force, and that's exactly when the police arrive. The responding officers fire back with their standard-issue handguns, but the robbers' firepower is so overwhelming that 4 police officers and one of the crew's own members end up dead on the pavement before it's over. The gang loads into the empty armored truck and disappears into the city. Back at their hideout, Ray tears into a crew member named Bosco for shooting the guard, because killing police officers turns a robbery into a full-scale manhunt. Then, Ray tells the crew their first priority is disposing of the stolen truck. When crew member Anson asks whether everything went smoothly, Ray's answer is blunt. They've killed 4 cops, which means the entire police force is now coming for them without mercy. Meanwhile, a detective from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department named Nick O'Brien arrives at the crime scene. The other investigators can't understand why anyone would risk so much to steal a truck that was empty. But Nick isn't looking at this as a standard robbery. He believes stealing that truck is step 1 of something far more ambitious. He's right. And across the street, Bosco is already photographing Nick and every detective working the scene, because Ray wants to know exactly who's hunting them. When Bosco brings the photos back and identifies Nick as the head of the Major Crimes Division, Ray studies the image carefully. But before anyone can say another word, crew driver Donnie quietly slips away from the group without explanation. No one notices. For now. Nick's investigation moves quickly. He and his team comb through a decade of major heists and discover something that stops them cold. During the years Ray was in prison, large-scale armed robberies in Los Angeles essentially ceased, which means if they can take Ray down, they potentially close every unsolved case from the last several years. They also uncover that Ray, Donnie, Bosco, and Anson are all former Marine commandos, trained, disciplined, and capable of military-grade planning. While Nick is building his case, Ray is already scouting the next target, the Federal Reserve Bank of Los Angeles. He tells the crew that this bank has never been successfully robbed in its history, that 53 previous attempts have ended in complete failure, and that its security architecture is among the most sophisticated of any financial institution in the country. That's precisely why Ray wants it. His plan centers on one specific vulnerability. Every day between 4 and 5 p.m., the bank destroys worn-out currency pulled from circulation, feeding damaged bills into industrial shredders before handing the shredded remains to a contracted waste management company. Ray estimates that roughly $30 million in about-to-be-destroyed cash passes through that destruction cycle each day. Technically, once currency is flagged for disposal, it belongs to no one. He's not stealing. He's collecting garbage. Meanwhile, Donnie has been quietly running his own groundwork operation. He works nights at a bar that happens to be a regular stop for Federal Reserve employees. And when one of those employees accidentally leaves an access card at the bar one evening, Donnie copies the card's data using a skimming device before casually handing it back. He also volunteers at a Chinese food delivery restaurant that regularly delivers inside the Federal Reserve building, which gives him a legitimate reason to walk through security and plant a bag of food in a ceiling vent above the cafeteria restroom. The pieces of a plan are being assembled one careful move at a time, though exactly whose plan it is remains unclear. Then Nick shows up at the bar. After Donnie's shift ends, Nick intercepts him, knocks him out cold, and when Donnie wakes up in a safe house, Nick and his partner, Detective Gus, lay out the full picture: a car theft charge, a police escape, an attempted murder conviction, and the fastest vehicle ever clocked by California Highway Patrol, all on Donnie's record. One more violation, they warn him, and he spends the rest of his life inside. Then Nick shows Donnie a tattoo that reads "Regulators," the mark of a covert police unit that operates outside standard procedure, settling things with force and bullets when the law alone can't reach. Nick tells Donnie he is personally a member of that unit, and the implication is unmistakable. After establishing that level of fear, Nick demands Donnie stay embedded with the crew, answer every incoming call without fail, and report back. If Donnie ever refuses, Nick promises to come handle it himself. Donnie insists he knows nothing about the crew's actual operations, he's only the driver. Nick believes him, but sends him back anyway. So Donnie returns to the crew carrying instructions from two sides at once, and which set of instructions he's truly following is a question that sits quietly at the center of everything. At their next gathering, Ray and the crew go out to eat at a restaurant, and Nick's team walks in. Nick approaches Ray's table, acts as if he and Donnie are old acquaintances from the gym, makes casual small talk, and leaves. Back at the hideout, Ray puts a gun to Donnie's head and demands an explanation. Donnie admits Nick had previously pulled him in for questioning, but swears he hasn't reached out since. Eventually, Ray decides to use that connection as a weapon rather than punish Donnie for it. He tells Donnie to relay a message to Nick. Something goes down on Friday. Donnie meets Nick inside a clothing store and delivers the information. Friday. No location. So Nick takes a different route to get what he needs. He visits the nightclub where Ray's girlfriend performs, watches her show, and afterward, she drifts over to his table, whispers in his ear, and the two of them spend the night together. The next morning, Ray arrives home to find Nick walking out of the bedroom. The two men stand in silence. A gun rests on a table between them. Nick raises his eyebrows. An open invitation. Ray doesn't take the bait. He walks past Nick, closes the door quietly behind him, gets in his car, and calls his partner with the robbery address he quietly learned from Ray's girlfriend. It turns out, however, that the entire encounter was exactly what Ray planned. His girlfriend confirms she told Nick precisely what Ray had instructed her to say. Nick thinks he's ahead of the crew. He's not even in the right game. Friday arrives. Nick and a team of detectives stake out the address from Ray's girlfriend. And right on schedule, a van pulls up and Ray's crew, masked, vested, armed, storms the building. The police move to contain the scene. But as Nick watches the situation unfold, something doesn't sit right. The building they're watching isn't the Federal Reserve Bank. Inside the decoy bank, the crew kills the security cameras, orders everyone to the floor, collects every phone, ties up the hostages, and takes complete control of the building in under 4 minutes. Ray forces the bank manager to call police headquarters and demand $1 million in a fully fueled helicopter, warning that a hostage will die every hour until both arrive. The FBI and LAPD immediately surround the block. When police call the bank's phone and admit the money isn't ready yet, the sound of a gunshot echoes from somewhere inside. and the terrified manager gets back on the line to warn them never to call without the demands prepared, or more will die. The negotiating officer asks for 90 more minutes. Ray agrees. The clock is ticking, or so the police believe. Outside, Nick is staring at the building's blueprint when he notices something. A decommissioned sewage channel, sealed off years ago, running directly under the structure. He understands immediately. It's a perfect hidden exit. He forces open the front door, storms inside with his team, and finds the hostages unharmed and the robbers completely gone. The gunshot had been staged. A large hole has been cut in the floor, connecting to the tunnel below. Without hesitating, Nick drops into the dark passage to pursue them. While every detective in Los Angeles chases shadows through an underground tunnel, the real heist begins. A fifth crew member named Mac calls the Federal Reserve Bank's security desk, poses as an employee of an armored transport company, and tells them a truck will arrive in 2 minutes to have the gate ready. Moments later, Ray and Anson pull up to the Federal Reserve's rear gate in the exact same armored truck they stole at the beginning of the film. They've repainted it, altered the markings just enough, and the forged ID cards they present at the security gate, built from the access card data Donnie skimmed months earlier from that employee at the bar, are so precisely constructed that the gate officer waves them through without question. Ray and Anson unload 2 large containers of empty cash canisters from the truck and deliver them to the bank's currency processing room. A bank employee accepts them and places both containers inside the destruction area. Ray and Anson settle into the waiting room. At that moment, Bosco is concealed inside the external tunnel housing the bank's main electrical supply. Ray radios Bosco. Donnie is in position. Bosco throws a switch on the main power feed, triggering a controlled blackout. The bank's backup generators engage, but there isn't enough current for every system simultaneously, so the bank automatically routes power to the vault, which means the currency processing and destruction room loses electricity entirely. Employees are evacuated from the area for safety until the power returns. The moment the room clears, Ray radios Donnie. Inside one of the 2 containers, in total darkness, Donnie has been waiting. He climbs out, activates a jamming device that disables every remaining backup camera and motion sensor in the room, and gets to work. At the same time, Mac, running surveillance on the bank's external phone lines, intercepts a call from the Federal Reserve employee who ordered the Chinese food, furious that her delivery still hasn't arrived. Mac answers sharply and tells her it's almost there. It's a small diversion, but it buys exactly the time they need. Inside the bank, security notices that cameras and sensors in the processing area have dropped offline. Security, not sure what to make of it, decides to send guards to walk employees back into the room for an emergency recount of all containers. Donnie hears them coming and slides under a table. While the guards and employees are busy with the inventory, he quietly stuffs bale after bale of damaged currency, already tagged for destruction, into black duffel bags and sends them down the trash disposal chute. Just before the room fills up again, Ray warns him over the radio to move. Donnie pries off a vent cover, pulls himself into the ceiling, and radios his location. Ray tells Bosco to restore the power. The current comes back on, the employees return to their work, and nothing appears to be out of place. Donnie crawls through the ceiling vent system to the cafeteria restroom, drops down, retrieves the food bag he planted hours earlier, strolls out to the eating area as if he'd just arrived for a delivery, and places the bag in front of the woman who ordered it. Then, he uses the copied access card to walk out of the Federal Reserve Bank of Los Angeles without a single person stopping him. At the bank's external garbage collection point, 2 trucks from the same waste management company load the trash containers. When the 2 trucks reach a 4-way intersection, the drivers exchange a quiet hand signal. Ray and Anson drive the fake security truck out through the Federal Reserve's front gate. Bosco picks up one garbage truck's tail and feeds Ray its real-time location. Ray cuts in front of it, forces it to stop, and Bosco pulls the driver out at gunpoint. The crew takes the truck and moves. Meanwhile, Nick and his team emerge from the tunnel and fan out across the city. Nick spots Donnie walking on a street, forces him into a vehicle, and locks him in handcuffs. From a distance, Mac sees all of this happen and immediately calls Ray to warn him. Donnie just gave them up to the police. Nick spots Ray and Anson's vehicle and pursues it down a street jammed with gridlocked traffic. He radios Detectives Murph and Baracco with the position, then leaves Donnie handcuffed in the car and moves in on foot. Ray, Anson, and Bosco step out of their vehicle. The standoff lasts exactly 1 second before the crew opens fire. One officer is killed instantly. The police return fire across the frozen street, rounds punching through car doors and windows on both sides. During the exchange, Bosco takes a fatal shot. Another officer goes down with a bullet through the knee. Now it's just Ray. Ray keeps running, badly wounded. Nick fires, hits him, fires again. Ray uses a large truck for cover, reloads with shaking hands, and pushes himself upright one final time. Nick shoots him again. Ray goes down and doesn't get up. When Nick walks back to the car, Donnie is gone. Nick and Detective Gus tear open the black bags from Ray's vehicle. Inside, instead of bundled currency, they find nothing but shredded paper, fragments of destroyed bills from the bank's own machines. The $30 million was never in Ray's possession at any point. Nick goes to the bar where Donnie used to work. The staff says Donnie quit 2 days ago. While waiting at the bar, Nick notices 2 Federal Reserve employees sitting nearby, wearing access cards around their necks. He also notices a framed photograph on the wall, a football team, and right in the middle of the group, Donnie and several friends. Nothing quite clicks yet. Then, Nick steps outside, turns around, and sees the Federal Reserve Bank sitting directly next door to the bar. And the entire architecture of Donnie's plan locks into place. It turns out the mastermind behind the Federal Reserve job was never Ray. It was Donnie. And he ran his scheme in plain sight, folded inside Ray's crew the entire time. In the final scene, Donnie is behind a bar in London, relaxed, smiling, pouring drinks. The friends who played the garbage truck crew are at the bar with him. So is the woman from the Federal Reserve who ordered the Chinese food delivery. The real $30 million left the bank in trash bags, switched over to Donnie's second garbage truck at the four-way intersection, while every officer's attention was fixed on the first, then was packed into vehicle tires and quietly shipped overseas. Ray and Nick had been running their separate plans against each other the whole time. Donnie had been running a third one against them both, and neither man ever saw it coming. And now, from what the final scene suggests, Donnie is already putting something even bigger together in London.